The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back, the second edition of Bay Area Press Box with MichaelDuca and Jerry Feitelberg. Take it away, Jerry. You're up first.
Well, thank you, Ralph. It's always a pleasure to be on the program with Michael. Michael is very erudite. I think he is, or at least he conned me into thinking that he knows something.
I think you meant to say airheaded, but you're close.
Yeah, right. And we had a very interesting week in Bay Area sports. On last Sunday, the 49ers played the New Orleans Saints, and perhaps the best pro football game of this season was that the Niners prevailed 48-46, and it was a joy to watch a great football game. It went right down to the last play of the game, and the Niners won it. They had to go, 75 yards in 53 seconds to win it, and they did it. And it was an exciting game. I was very pleased. And, Mike, what's your take on the 49ers the rest of the way in the last three games?
Well, they've got a breather this week, I think, although that could be a trap game. You got to be careful because Matt Ryan has thrown for 50,000 yards in his career, so you have to take seriously virtually anyone who has numbers like that as a possible opponent. But this should be a week for them, we hope, to begin to try and get some people healthy. Right now they are really kind of a walking mash unit with so many injuries out there. But,
right.
If they can get through this week and get some people a little healthier, they're going to be much better off, I think, when they have to face the Rams and then the Seahawks to finish the season.
Yeah, they lost their starting center to an injury. He's gone for the season. The backup did a good job, though.
Yeah, well, the backup has some experience. Weston Richburg had been out for, 4 weeks earlier in the year, 3 or 4 weeks earlier in the year due to, I think, probably a similar injury. I think this was just an aggravation of that.
Sure. Yeah,
that's going to be a difficult one for them, and missing Richard Sherman is not going to be good either. He's going to be out for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, he'll be back for the Seahawks game. Well, that would be good.
He'll be back for the Seahawks game if he has to remove his legs and put wheels down there.
That's for sure. But, McGlinchey and Staley are back. I don't know if they're performing up to 100%, but they're certainly in the line, and that gives Garoppolo the opportunity to do his stuff. So the running game looked very good last Sunday. The passing game was outstanding. He threw for 4 TDs.
Yeah, this is a team that it's kind of fascinating how well they are able to run the ball when you consider that they basically don't have the running backs that they anticipated having when the season started. They went out and signed some guys in the off season who all got hurt in the preseason and aren't going to play this year.
Yeah, but Breida was injured for a while. He played well. Mostert has been a find. I don't know where they got him from, but he's been running well. Coleman has shown that he can do it when he plays. So they've got 3 guys in there that they can rotate, and they've been doing a great job. And
the shocker of that is that Raheem Mostert, who I think, if memory serves that, I think he's playing for his 5th NFL team. I mean, I don't know how many of them he's played game action for, but he's at least drawn paychecks from a number of teams. And he has proven to be, by far, their top running back this year. He averaged almost 7 yards a carry against the Saints.
Yeah, they had no trouble running that. They were ripping off yardage, both passing and running, in that game. To score 48 points, you wondered where the number 1 rated defense, the Niners, were. They gave up 46 points, and they gave up 2 touchdowns late in the game when Drew Brees rallied them to put them ahead by 46-45, something like 46-45.
Yeah. Couple of things. First of all, you saw history. That was the first 48-46 final in NFL history, and that's a lot of history.
Yeah.
As we know, this is their 100th season, so it was an unusual final score for openers. And you can't feel bad about Drew Brees lighting you up in the fourth quarter. I mean, if Matt Ryan has thrown for 50,000 yards, I think Drew Brees might have thrown for 50,000 yards in the fourth quarter.
Probably.
It felt like it last week.
I think that the mistake that Sean Payton did is when they had their second score and they went for the 2 points and they didn't make
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. If you don't get greedy there, they were trying to go up. What was it? Would have been 15-3, I think. And if you don't get greedy there, you just take that point. Then the next time that you had to go for 2 to try and build a 3-point lead, you wouldn't have had to go for 2. You would have been able to kick for 1, and that 49er field goal at the end of the game would have only tied it, and they might still be playing. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. They went for the 2 late in the game, and they failed to make that one either. That's how they ended up with 46 points. Yeah, and again, you're right. They would have just tied the game with the field goal at the last second of the regulation. So
all right. So I think we have to talk about the play. I think we really have to talk about the play, which was the fake punt.
Yeah, the fake punt, and of course George Kittle's catch was a tremendous effort on 4th and 2 on the final drive. I mean, he had 3 guys on him, one pulling his face mask, and he made it all the way down. And what did he go, 30 yards or 40 yards on the play?
He got 39 yards on the play, and I believe it was 28 of them after, not just after the catch, but after contact. He dragged players nearly 30 yards down the field with him. But the play that everybody seems to be focusing on is the fake punt, and it's a play that happens so seldom that almost nobody understands the rules about it. But in a punt formation, you get to line up 2 guys almost on the sidelines, one on each side, and they're the gunners, and they're allowed to release and take off before the ball is in the air. No one else is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they're allowed to go, but they are considered to be blockers until the ball is kicked. So they can be contacted, they can be pushed, they can be shoved, they can even be held.
Right.
Once the ball is in the air as a punt, then they are clearly blockers. If they throw the ball, they can become pass receivers, but as pass receivers, they're no longer subject to defensive holding once the ball is in the air.
Right.
And that's where everything got all schmurgled up over the weekend, is that all the people who watched that play, especially Sean Payton and the Saints fans, were screaming for defensive holding, but they didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the play, and to its discredit, Fox never ran it again and never ran it side by side to show you how quickly the punter threw the ball. But you don't have a lot of time to stand back there in the pocket and step up and throw. You get the ball, there's 3 guys coming up the middle and 2 more coming off the ends to converge at you.
Right.
You've got to get rid of the ball immediately. So he did. So the ball was in the air about 1 1/3 seconds after it was snapped, and that was well before the alleged holding occurred. And the guy who was on the Fox broadcast talking about the rules made it pretty clear. He said the play was called correctly, despite what everybody wants to say here.
Yeah, that was. I forget. Wasn't that the referee that makes the he gives the analysis of the play when there are penalties called or not called?
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was the right call.
Yep.
No penalty. No penalty.
Yep. And what that tells me, because I have been a frequent critic of Kyle Shanahan and his ability to manage the game late, and what that tells me is that either he or somebody on his staff knows the rules, because those defensive backs were coached to do exactly the right thing on that play, which is to tie the guy up. They didn't know that it was a pass coming. They just knew the football was in the air. But they knew that they had the right to mug, manhandle, and whatever else those gunners coming down the side.
Right. So they did.
And the game really turned on that, because they turned the ball over, and then, as you said, George Kittle put up what might have been. Yeah, well, you know who he reminded me of? I mean, close your eyes and remember the play, and then dig deep into the archives and tell me who that reminded you of.
I'm thinking of Russ Francis.
I'm thinking of Mike Ditka.
Oh, Mike Ditka. Okay.
Okay, I can't remember how many times I watched Mike Ditka drag Jimmy Johnson with him an extra 10 or 12 yards, and Jimmy Johnson was one of the great defensive backs of all time, but Ditka had 60 pounds on him.
Yeah, I was thinking of when Francis joined the 49ers, and I recall a play that he just dragged someone too. Yeah, these guys are unbelievably strong, and so was Kittle. He was unbelievable on that play. And
absolutely. I mean, it was a play. It's a play that I think goes down in the 49ers annals, maybe alongside, or just slightly behind Steve Young's bounce off of all 11 Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I was at that game, and it seemed like it took him forever to get to the end zone, and he stumbled in, as you recall.
Well, it did take him forever to get to the end zone, because I believe he was about as gassed as a human can be at the end of that play. He collapsed into the end zone.
Yeah, did he ever? I remember that quite well.
Yeah, and my dear friend, the late Lon Simmons, called that play, and I think Lon was probably just about as gassed at the end of the call. One of the great calls of all time.
I don't remember if I had my headset on listening to it at the game, but I do remember the play. That was unbelievable. But I did have my binoculars on Young that day, going down. I think I was on the side of the stadium when he was going. Was he going to the north end or the south end? I can't remember. I think he was heading to the south.
He would have been headed south, because the cameras are always on the west side. And he was going left to right on your TV screen, so that would be north to south.
Yep. We sat on the west side. I think we sat on the east. I forgot. We were on the sunny side of the ballpark, where center field used to be.
Well, that would be the east side.
Yeah, down the east side. Well, anyway,
so,
I remember the play.
Anyway, so what are your thoughts about this team? Do you think they have the necessary capability to make a deep run in the playoff, maybe even discuss playing another game in New Orleans at the end of the year?
Yeah, I think that they have it. If everybody's healthy, they have a wonderful chance of doing it. They have to. Of course, they have 3 games left. The Rams looked revitalized in their last game. The Rams beat the Seahawks, and they manhandled the Seahawks, which was unusual. And so
they sure did. Russell Wilson may have had his worst game as a pro.
Yeah, and so the Niners have to play them next week after the Falcons, and then they play the Seahawks again. So every game is a must for the Niners if they want to have home field advantage. They're going to have to end up the season going 14-2 in order to have home field. Which
well, and what's
easier.
What's interesting about that, Jerry, is that every game is also a must game for the Rams. They have to win out in order to grab a wild card spot. And every game is a must win for the Seahawks. If they win out, they control the division.
Exactly. Yeah, so they would have home field, and they got when they play up in Seattle, that field, the noise level is unbelievable. And what was amazing was that the 49ers handled the noise at the Superdome, where the decibel level is, it blows your ears out. They did a super job handling that. And
they did, although if memory serves me correctly, I believe they did have 4 false start penalties in the game, which is a little more than you want, but certainly understandable under those conditions. I've been in the Superdome with 75,000 people in the building with me. It was for a college football game, but I don't think people bring their indoor voices to a college game, so I'm assuming that I've pretty much heard it at its best.
Oh yeah, it's just unbelievable, and for an outdoor stadium in Seattle to be that loud, that's kind of like the way the old Oakland Coliseum used to be when the Raiders, they only had 51,000 people back in the day before the Raiders moved for the first time. They used to say that the fans in Oakland were the 12th man on the field, but now.
Well, have you ever been to CenturyLink Field?
No, I haven't been to CenturyLink, not at all.
I have done a game there, and I will only differ with you in one aspect. I'm not sure that you can really call it an outdoor stadium. It's an indoor stadium with an outdoor field because of the way the roofing is constructed on that, and the way the end zone bleachers have a kind of a curved roof. All of the sound is focused down onto the field. It ricochets off that roof and comes back down onto the field. So, to your point, it may even be louder than the Superdome, but it's louder, and you have the elements to deal with, and you can almost guarantee that you're going to have a wet field in Seattle at the end of December.
Oh, for sure. It's drizzle season up there now. I'm pretty sure of that. With the storms coming in from the Gulf of Alaska, they get a lot more drizzle and rain than we do.
Well, and they head right straight for the Alaska terminal there at the Port of Seattle, which is about 8 blocks from the stadium. All right, let's move along. Last game ever in Oakland coming up for the Raiders. Of course, we've said that before. We said that before many years ago, but this time they're committed for 33 years in Las Vegas, something like that. So good luck to them. I personally don't think that they're going to thrive there, but that's just one man's opinion. I don't think that you're going to get as many tourists coming into town and saying, hey, I want to spend $200 on a ticket to a football game this weekend, as they think. I think people will do it once, maybe twice, but it's not going to become a regular thing. Now, there will be, I think, some diehard Raider fans who go down there for a while, but, I am reminded of when the Raiders came back and how much trouble they had selling PSLs because Raider fans were complaining. Yeah, Raider fans were complaining they didn't have that kind of money. Well, I know times have changed and Raider fans have changed a little bit, but I still don't think they have the kind of money that's going to allow them to spend $8,000 to $10,000 a year to go down and watch 8 football games.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head because let's say they take the Southwest shuttle. Who knows what it's going to be? Let's figure that's 200 round trip. For let's say they get the $60 special, and there's 2 people going down, so that's $240 round trip, and then $200 per ticket. That's another $400. So you're already up to $640 plus your food and what have you. It's going to be close to $1,000 before they're done, and if they want to go down on Saturday and spend the night at a hotel, that's more money. Who knows? And
oh, absolutely. And believe me, you're not talking nothing when you're talking food. You know, my wife and I went to see Andrea Bocelli at the Chase Center, and first of all, I will tell you there are bargains to be had there. The $5 boat of French fries at Bake Sale Betty's from Oakland is possibly the best fast food deal anywhere. But, you know, and their chicken sandwich with a full chicken breast for $13 isn't bad, but I sure hope you don't get thirsty because the beers are $17 and $18. $17 for draft, $18 for canned.
Wow, unbelievable. Well, I think we paid, when we went to the free practice or the $5 practice, and we went to Sadie's Delicatessen, we had the brisket sandwich. It was enough for two people. It was $18, and I don't know what we got a sauce.
You can tolerate that. I don't mind paying $15 to $18 for something that's going to fill me up.
It was great.
But paying $18 for something that's going to make me stand in line in the restroom, I'm not sure I want to do.
No, that's absolutely outrageous, but that's the way things are. And I'm sure it's going to be very high priced in Las Vegas too when they get the concessions. So if they go in to get a sandwich and a beer, it's a minimum of $40 a person. So lunch is going to cost them close to $100 for two people. And add that to your transportation and what have you, it becomes a very expensive deal. And I think that, you know, a lot of people go to Las Vegas from the weekend, especially from Los Angeles, and they have to be out of the hotel by, 11 o'clock or noontime. So some people might hang around and go to the football game. They may even have some old L.A. Raider fans going to Las Vegas. They may pull that, but they got to fill the stadium, and the Golden Knights have shown that they can do it. They had a remarkable first season. I don't think the Raiders are going to have a remarkable first season. They're not doing well this year. What are they? 6-7. They got 6-7 with 3 games to go, and they've lost 3.
Yeah, and it's an ugly 6-7. I mean, they've been outscored 114 to 30 or something in their last 3 games. This is the second time in the franchise's history that they've lost 3 consecutive games by 3 touchdowns or more each.
They were blown out. They were blown out on Sunday. They were just flat blown out.
Well, they were blown out in the second half. It was tied at halftime. It was 21-21, but then. Unfortunately, apparently the offense neglected to leave a trail of crumbs back to the field and never found their way back.
Right. And and I don't. And as I said, I don't know how the fans in Oakland supported this team, and they as far as I was concerned, when they said they were moving to Oakland. The city of Oakland and the Oakland Coliseum Commission said, fine, there's the door, go. You want to go? Go. Do like the Chargers. Go to a 25,000-seat stadium in Las Vegas and play your games there until your stadium's ready, but don't bug us. But they didn't do that.
Or failing that, go to San Diego and give those people the opportunity to boo you mercilessly 8 times because there's very few places in the world that hate the Raiders more.
Yeah, right. And, of course, you know, the Chargers experiment going up to L.A., they can't even fill the 25,000-seat stadium up in Carson where they've been playing. So who knows?
No, and it's going to be fascinating because the NFL is already investigating the possibility of having the Chargers play their home games in London. Whether or not they move the team there or whether that becomes 4 games a year there and 4 games a year in L.A., hoping that they can build a fan base or whatever. But, you know, that's another team that just has not been particularly well run in the last decade or so, and it shows everywhere. But like you said, the interesting question is going to be for the Raiders, how are they going to fill the seats? Because they can't fill the seats here. where they've got 60 years of history and a population base of 6 million. And they're moving to an area with a population base of about 850,000 and 20,000 more seats.
Yeah, what are they? The 40th largest market in the country. They're going from the 5th to 6th largest market to the 40th. Yeah, and
it depends on how you define markets. I mean, I think you can reasonably, in Oakland, I think you can include everything from Santa Rosa to Sacramento to Modesto to San Jose as a potential part of the market. Maybe not for baseball. People aren't going to make that trek 15 or 20 times a year to support a team, but they might make that trek 4 to 8 times a year to support a team.
Yeah, there are boosters up in Sacramento that come down for the game, and it's an hour and a half with no traffic to come down from Sacramento to see the Raiders. I know people came down for them. I knew people up in Rio Del would come down from Humboldt County to see the 49ers play. They come down on Saturday, stay overnight, go home after the game. So the fans
absolutely. My first 49er game, my first 49er game, my brother took me. He lived in Fremont at the time, and it was an hour and a half to get to Kezar. And that was before you tried to park.
Right. What parking?
Yeah, before you tried to park, exactly. And then coming home, what I remember, I saw a rookie by the name of Fran Tarkenton and a very old guy by the name of Hugh McElhaney playing that game. And what I remember more than anything else is that was at a time, and old-timers will remember this, and everyone else will have to go to the newspaper archives to look it up. But back in the day, the Bay Bridge was 2 directions on top and was trucks and streetcars on the bottom. And as a net result, it had a very low clearance down below, and they had to raise the bridge in order to make it one direction on each level and take the key system out. And there was this huge bump in the middle of the bridge right at the entrance to the Treasure Island Tunnel that it was like an incline about 7 feet tall made out of plate steel that you had to climb up and then go back down the other side, and you had to slow to about 4 miles an hour to do it without high centering your car. So that meant that everybody coming home from the 49er game across the bridge, and there were only 3 lanes because it was 2 directions, everybody had to go through that. I just remember it was it seemed to me like it was a 3-hour drive home.
Yeah, it had to be with only 3 lanes. It had to be.
Yeah.
But you're also giving away your age. You know that.
Oh, well, I'm so old now, Jerry, that it's actually time for me to start being proud of how old I am instead of embarrassed by it.
Well, when you were telling the story, I was about that time I was still living in New England in Boston, and the New England Patriots were known as the Boston Patriots, with Babe Pinelli was their quarterback. They had an old guy from Boston College by the name of Butch Songen, who was one of their first quarterbacks. He was 40 years old when the team was started by Bill Sullivan and his syndicate. Man, that was a long time ago.
I remember that the Denver Broncos had a quarterback by the name of Bob Watoska, who, if he tried to throw the ball more than 30 yards, he threw it end over end. I mean, there were some. I was in San Diego by the time the AFL was real, and I remember a 34-33 Chargers win over the Raiders back in the day when the Raiders were like 2-10 or 2-12 that year. It was. I think. Very early on, might have been 1962, something like that. I lived and died with the Chargers, with Keith Lowe and or Keith Lincoln, I'm sorry, and Paul Lowe and Lance Allworth and John Hadel. Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the Raiders were coached the first 2 years by Eddie Erdlatz, the old Navy coach, and they had the losing years, and then Al Davis came in 63, turned the team around. So long time ago. And I think the Patriots played the Chargers one year for the AFL championship, and the Chargers just drubbed them. They just ran over them for those guys.
Yeah, my recollection is that you're right. All I can remember, though, is my Chargers going against the Buffalo Bills and Mike Stratton breaking 3 of Keith Lincoln's ribs on a tackle and knocking him out of the championship game.
Ooh, brutal.
Yep. Different game, and nowadays Mike Stratton, who seemed to be massive. I mean, if you remember, the Chargers had the biggest defensive line in the history of the game. They had Ernie Ladd and Earl Faison in the middle. The first 2 guys ever on a defensive line to weigh 280 pounds each. Now they'd be tight ends.
Exactly. Yeah, there were no 3.
They might even be big wide receivers.
I think the first 300-pound guy was Les Bingaman with the old Detroit Lions. And
you might be right. My memory always takes me back to Bob Brown with the Rams, but Brown may have been the first 300-pounder on the offensive line. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've probably lost our audience entirely by now. Why don't we see if we can get a couple of them back and talk just a little bit about the winter meetings? Any surprises there?
Just the amount of money that's being doled out to starting pitching. One pitcher got $245 million. That was Strasburg. The Zach Wheeler got 5 years for $118 million. And he's just really an average pitcher. Strasburg, of course, won a championship. He's 31. They're paying him until he's 36 years old. And Garrett Cole got $324 million for 9 years. He's 29 now.
Maybe. He has an opt out after 5 years in that deal, and. Who knows? After 5 years and $180 million, he may just say, "See ya." He may be done.
Well, yeah, but who knows how long his arm is going to last? You saw, these guys like CC Sabathia. His knees broke down, his arms broke down.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You signed him for 9, but he's got an opt out after 5, and if he can't pitch, he may do the honorable thing and retire after 5. Who knows? But one thing I can be pretty sure of is that the Yankees are going to make damn sure they get their $36 million worth out of him every year. That's that's a pretty fascinating number. If you calculate that out, that's about what's $1 million a start?
Yeah,
it's $1 million a start, and it works out to about, on average, about $160,000 an inning, $50,000 an out.
Yeah, it's beyond.
And probably about $10,000 per pitch.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The other interesting thing that came out of it, and this was regarding the position player, was the Angels going after Anthony Rendon for I forgot how many years he's getting. I think it was 7 years, $245 million to play third base for them. Now you look at and they just shelled out. What did Trout get? A 12-year deal for over $30 million a year for 12 years, and they're paying. And they have a couple of years left for Albert Pujols. And they need pitching. They They don't have any real pitching. So I don't know who's running who the GM is. Where they're going to put themselves into the luxury tax position if they get any starting pitching. but apparently,
the GM is Billy Epler, and the luxury tax is kind of a non-issue going forward. My recollection was that the luxury tax is being phased out over the next few years, so not too worried about that. They do have to concern themselves with losing international slot money and bonus money and things like that. But right now, one thing to remember is that they do have a couple of pitchers down there. Andrew Haney's not terrible, and Shuei Ohtani will be back next year and likely to get in 35 starts. So they've got the keystones to a rotation there. They are allegedly in the Madison Bumgarner Derby. They are allegedly looking at possibly trading. They might even be willing to take on a massive amount of salary and take David Price off the Red Sox hands, which would do a disservice to a whole lot of people, I think, if they did, because if nobody bites on Price, then the Red Sox almost have to trade Mookie Betts.
Yeah, exactly. And the fans up in New England they won't cry if Price leaves. They will be really upset with Mookie going. And yet Mookie has indicated he wants to be a free agent after 2020. So who knows? I don't know who Mookie's agent is, but I'm sure the Red Sox would like to certainly give him a deal as rich as Rendon's, or maybe even better. He is an MVP. He's won a championship with him. Why wouldn't they give him 7 years? He 27, 28 years old. He's still got some time. Yeah.
Well, I think the Rendon move for the Angels was a really, really good move. I mean, it's they're going to have Mike Trout's going to have protection in the lineup,
right?
And we all saw, what having a hot Jeff Kent and Rich Aurelia meant for Barry Bonds, and Mike Trout is the same kind of transformative talent. The interesting thing that I've heard out of the winter meetings, and this would be something that, if I were, first of all, if I were the Giants and people were throwing money around at Rendon, I would find out who the losers were and see if anybody would be interested in taking Evan Longoria.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well,
and then whatever I saved on Longoria plus whatever I've saved on everybody else for the rest of forever, I would package up with any number of prospects, 2 or 3 if necessary, to go get Nolan Arenado from the Rockies, who are shopping him.
Yeah, I saw that. The Longoria, if the Rangers can't get Josh Donaldson, or if the Braves lose Donaldson, they'll be looking for a third baseman. They might take a flyer on Longoria. It's a hitter's park in Atlanta, so he might do better down there.
That's true, and Arenado is one guy who would not be afraid to hit at AT&T or Oracle or SBC or whatever it's called this week. Your Name Here Park.
Yeah,
because he's hitting 340 lifetime in that ballpark.
Yeah. So, the Giants moved the wall. The wall. They put the bullpens out in the right center field. Triples Alley is going from 421 to 415, which is still a big blast out to the right center field fence. But it's going to be about 380, a little closer. But they've done nothing on the left field.
Well, the 404 corner has moved into 399, and the 399 dead center field will move into 391. So it's not going to materially change things. It's not going to change anything in left field. And Arenado's a pull hitter. He has no trouble finding the top of the bleachers out there.
Yeah.
It seems like he does it almost every game.
Yeah, so he should be okay playing here if they want to spend the money. And also, we talked about the luxury tax. And I just wanted to make a comment that the luxury tax became a de facto salary cap. for teams. Baseball has argued against the salary tax for years, but by putting in the tax of whatever it is, you hit $215 million and you go above it, and you stay over it for a number of years, they keep increasing the tax. It forced teams to rethink what they want to do. And the Players Association can argue that luxury tax was a salary cap, and we don't want a salary cap. You have to do away with it, owners, and come up with something else. So I think that's going to be eliminated in the next collective bargaining agreement.
Well, I'm very concerned about labor peace in the next bargaining agreement, because even though Bob Manfred was in charge of negotiations and negotiated the last two CBAs, that was not as commissioner, and I just have a gut feeling that he's going to be a little bit tougher as commissioner, and it may be harder to maintain this labor peace going forward. I hope not, but it's going to be very interesting, because if the players concentrate on getting rid of the luxury tax, they're missing the issue, and I don't think they're that dumb. The issue isn't so much capping how much people can earn. The issue is making sure that teams spend the money that they're given. Right now, you've got so much tanking going on. You've got so many teams who are not competing for players, not competing for victories, positioning themselves for the draft, trying to load up a farm system with inexpensive talent. And, to me, the real issue has always been, if you're going to have revenue sharing in the game at any level at all, you have to be certain that the money that you give to the Oakland A's and Milwaukee Brewers and Kansas City Royals gets spent on the product on the field and not on the product in the minor leagues.
Well, that's what the A's. The A's were notorious when they were getting that revenue. They weren't spending it. They were just saying, "Oh, we got this revenue. We're making money." And
they were one of the most profitable teams in baseball.
Yeah,
they were. Most years they were either number 2 or number 3 in terms of profit margin, profit percentage, because of that. So
another thing that came out of the winter meetings, and it kind of, I was a little surprised that they're going to implement it, is that, and Manfred said they're going to implement it, is that a relief pitcher has to face 3 batters when they come in.
Well, let's give the whole rule. A relief pitcher who comes in during an inning must either face 3 batters or finish the inning.
Right.
So if he comes in with 2 outs and gets an out, he finishes the inning. He does not have to come out and pitch to 2 more batters the next inning, because to do so would eliminate the ability of a team to pinch hit for their pinch hitters. And I don't think anybody's even thinking about doing something that radical. So it's 3 if he starts an inning, and it's finish the inning otherwise.
Yeah, well, I've seen guys come in to start an inning. They walk 2 guys, give up 2 hits, and the manager wants to take them out. Well, of course, he's faced 4 batters, so he could be taken out. But even so, if you walk 2 guys and you're not showing anything, the manager ought to have the right to remove him. And I know they bring in a lefty to face a lefty hitter now, one and done, and they want to change that. I don't know. I think the managers have a gripe that it's really changing strategy. And
and what they really want to do is they really want to cut down on the amount of time that people spend standing around watching someone warm up in the bullpen, or warm up on the mound after they've warmed up in the bullpen. And, as far as I'm concerned, if you're playing during the championship season, I mean, it's a different thing, let's say, in spring training. A catcher's got to go out there and introduce himself maybe to somebody from Double-A and find out what he throws and work on a set of signs and all of that stuff. I get all that. But during the season, you got 12 pitchers out there and 2 catchers. Your job is to know each other, so you shouldn't have to go out there and talk very much. You go out there and you meet him when he comes into the mound, and he either tells you fastball's working, breaking ball's working, nothing's working. He's got to, and you're done. That's it.
Yeah.
And I don't see any reason why you need to throw more than 2 or 3 pitches to adjust to the mound. So that's one of the first things that I would consider cutting out. Of course, the problem with that is that they're selling commercial time, and they're giving them 2 minutes to do that.
Exactly.
But, we can talk about this another time at some length, but I still say that, the biggest issue that baseball has in terms of time of games right now is foul balls. Foul balls are actually dominating everything about baseball now. Giants and A's announced today that they're going to be moving netting all the way down to the foul poles.
Yeah,
so basically, no matter how much money you spend for a ticket now, you're not going to get a foul ball. No matter how much money you spend for a ticket now, you're not going to be able to reach across the fence an hour before the game and get an autograph.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one step away from saying let's play the games in a neutral site. You're slowly but surely removing the crowd from the ambiance of the game, and you couple that with the fact that every time a foul ball is hit into the stands, you have to have at least one fielder make a show of chasing it to keep the fans happy, and maybe a manager who looks at those sorts of things. And then he has to trot back to his position, and then the umpire has to throw a ball to the pitcher, and the pitcher has to look at it and decide if he's going to be Garrett Cole and throw 8 of them out in a row because the seams are wrong, which happened in the World Series, or he's going to rub up the ball and get it ready to go. And every third time that happens, the umpire has to signal over to the dugout and get the ball boy to bring out 3 new balls. And all of these things, every foul ball consumes about 25 seconds of time of game. And while that may not seem like much, count the number of foul balls in a game sometime soon. You're going to find the number is getting up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that's 20 to 30 minutes right there.
Yeah, and most of the games now are a minimum of 3 hours. You very, very few are less than 3 hours.
Right, and if you take, if you have 17 inning changes of 2 minutes each, that's 34 minutes. And if you have another 20 minutes of foul balls, that's an hour of those 3 hours where absolutely nothing is occurring. Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. Yeah,
nothing to occupy your attention other than cartoons on the board or dot races or whatever. But
yeah.
Now possibly this business of making you throw to 3 batters will help that, because one of the things that has been happening is that you'd have games where you take out your starter when he got tired and his speed dropped from 96 to 92, and you brought in a reliever who threw 94, and he threw to one guy, and then you changed him for a guy who threw 95, and then you changed him for a guy who threw 97. And the harder they throw, particularly later in the game, the more likely you are to see foul balls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree 100% on that. It's just, and we've sitting up in the press box wondering why is this game taking so long? It's 2 hours have gone by and they're barely in the 5th inning. And we've seen that many, many times. It just takes forever to play a game. There's no pace to it.
Well, to me, the ones that just kill me is when I look up and we're 1 hour into the game in the 5th inning, and I know that it's still going to be 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I know that we've got 7 pitching changes coming yet.
Yeah, and
you know,
we go to extra innings.
Well, God forbid you get to face a team a third time through the lineup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the current fascination with metrics, and yeah, I get it. Metrics demonstrate that batting averages go up the third time through the order. Okay. You know, that's kind of how you don't have a whole bunch of nothing-to-nothing games after 13 innings.
Yeah, years ago when the starters, we knew that the starters would go out there and they want to go 9 innings. They would normally teams would get to them either in the 6th inning or the 8th inning, you know, the third time through or the 4th time through. Now these guys don't even get to go to the 3rd time through. They know the analytics guys know what happens to them when they go through the 3rd time, and they can tell you that, you know, their ERA goes up, their velocity dips or whatever. They have all that information, and they're sending information down to the manager, and the manager now is not making the decisions. The analytic guys are making the decisions. And I don't know.
Well, here's the ridiculous thing about that third time through the lineup. I mean, I understand if your velocity starts to drop, yada, yada, yada. You know, if your control goes away, if you're starting to see fatigue, all of those things, sure. And, in fact, that used to be kind of why you paid a pitching coach and a manager to stand there and watch the game so that they could observe a pitcher and see what was going on. But let's think about this for a minute. Typically, you know, a very good control pitcher walks 2 guys per 9 innings, right?
Right.
Okay. And a very good pitcher allows about 1 hit an inning, right?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So that means that in 5 innings, 6 guys are going to reach base.
Right.
Okay, so 6 guys reach base and you got 15 outs. That's 21. Oh, gee, you're already 3 guys into the 3rd time through the lineup. Mm-hmm. So good pitchers can't win the game anymore. They're not lasting 5 innings. How many times did you see teams come out and yank a pitcher with 1 or 2 outs in the 5th inning last year?
Oh, lots.
Because it was the 3rd time through the lineup, and we can't let him face one more guy. Good Lord, no. You know, and I mean, how is anybody going to throw, you know, a shutout anymore, or a 2-hitter through 7? You can't throw a 2-hitter through 7. That's 23 batters.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's really sad because a lot of guys, especially as they get older, they really learn how to pitch. They learn how to mix their speeds up. They throw more change-ups, and they figure out how to get guys out. And using that rule, they're never going to get to the 6th inning or to the 7th inning. They're going to be out of there sitting on the bench, and that's why wins don't count anymore.
Well, and I mean, stop and think about it. How many times did you hear Willie Mays talk about how I'd swing and miss at a changeup with 1 strike in the 1st inning because I knew I'd see it again in the 7th? Not anymore. You won't even see it in the 5th now.
Yeah, right. Oh,
yeah. There's no point in setting up a pitcher. You're only going to see him twice. You're going to see hard stuff once. You're going to see soft stuff once. And you're done.
And that's it. And they got a new guy coming in throwing 97. They're going to foul the balls off. And another guy comes in throwing 93, different speed. It's just the way the game is. And of course, with the shift, and base hits are taken away up the middle. There's no hit and run. There's no bunting. It's just a totally different game, and it's gotten to the point where a lot of people complain, I have trouble watching the game. It's either strikeout, walk, or home run. Strikeout, walk, home run, and it's really it's taken away the magic of the game.
The 3 true outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one true outcome is that we can probably talk until we run out of airtime here, but we shouldn't. We're up against 45 minutes, and that's, I think, a reasonable amount of time to ask people to listen. So next week, you and I should talk a little bit about the Sharks and what's gone on there, and maybe a little bit about what seems to be happening in Warriors land. But in the meantime, you have a great week, and I will be back on the air with you a week from now, right before Christmas. And will that be in the middle of Hanukkah?
Oh, probably, but that's okay. I'm looking forward to it. I had someone say, explain how does Hanukkah work, and he said it this way. You know the old story, they only had enough oil for one day, and it lasted 8 days. They said, think of it this way. Your cell phone only has 10% left of its charge, and it lasts for 8 days. That was the miracle of Hanukkah.
And truly, the only way that miracle could happen is if you got off your cell phone for 8 days, and that, too, would be a miracle.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. But I do, it is a holiday that I enjoy, even though I'm not Jewish, Jerry, because it's a holiday to celebrate oil lasting longer than everyone expected. It's celebrated with fried foods, which are most of my favorite food groups.
Oh, you like the latkes, huh? Oh man,
I like the latkes. I like the jelly donuts. It's all good.
Oh yeah, my late wife used to like it. She would do it at Hanukkah time, and she had a nice recipe. And my lovely lady Isla makes them, and they're great. And they try to make not too many because we don't want to wear it on our hips forever, right?
Well, you know the secret ingredient to make a perfect latke, don't you?
Don't.
Don't what?
Don't make them. That's a secret ingredient. No, what?
No. The secret ingredient is knuckle skin. Without just a little bit of Bubby's knuckle skin, they don't taste right.
Oh God, I remember doing that. My mother had a grater, and I had to do that, grate the potatoes for her. I had cuts them on. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was a long time ago.
Now I'm showing your age. All right, and on that note, happy holidays, everyone. Please tune in again next week. You've been listening to two old guys yell at the clouds on Bay Area sports. Jerry Feitelberg, always good to spend time with you. I'm MichaelDuca, and this is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Thank you for listening.
Okay, bye-bye now.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.